Hello and welcome to another live stream with Drug Free Clubs of America. Today we have a very special guest with us. It is a gentleman who is a personal counselor at one of the high schools that we work with, and also has a very extensive background in some other stuff that he'll explain to you a little bit more. My name is Angie Ferguson, and I am the director at Drug Free Clubs of America. And we're excited whether you're joining us live or you're watching this as on record. We're excited that you're here. So I'm going to bring Rick onto the screen. Rick Flesch here. Give me a second. Hi, Rick.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Good to see you.
Okay.
Glad you're doing well.
Yeah, of course. Of course. So it's really unique to have somebody in your role as a personal counselor at a high school who also has the other experience and education that you have. So could we maybe just start off by giving a little bit of background on yourself and why it is that maybe you're our guest for this topic for counselors today?
Well, I can answer the first part. You'll have to answer the second part. But,
all right.
Okay.
Fair enough.
I've been a personal counselor at Covington Catholic High School for the past 14 years. Covington Catholic is an all-male high school, grades 9 through 12. We've had an enrollment in my time here from 535 through 600 boys. Okay. My primary duties include ministering to the needs of the students and families, predominantly anything not academic in nature. By that I mean mental health, behavioral health, substance abuse, okay, whatever other issues pop up, okay, come in my direction. We have academic guidance counselors at the grade levels to address the other needs, and I do work in concert with them. Okay, please hear that as a member of the guidance department. I had the privilege of serving as the Drug Free Club chapter coordinator. You're smiling at this, since 2007.
Because you're so good at it.
Yeah, so when it was hired, okay, there was some interest in the prevention program, and I had the pleasure of meeting you at the time. Hi, Ange. But jumping on board, and it was an easy sell. Very easy sell to our administration, to our volunteer board, okay, to the frontline teachers. It's a matter of, we have young men, they are tempted, okay. They are not immune to the temptations of the world. In some respects, they may have greater access and resources to tap into some of the illegal substances out there. So we got into it that way, and it's been a win-win situation since then. We started out, I believe my first year enrollment was like 15% of the boys volunteered or parents signed them up. We quickly grew within 4 years to roughly 2/3, 67% of the student population volunteering. And we've somewhat plateaued with that, but it is very much a rewards-based program. We have adopted in the last 4 years a non-punitive response to the issues that are identified. By that I mean, when a child tests dirty or negative for substance abuse with the Drug Free Club's testing, I am informed, okay, of the results. I work together with the parents and the student, and I'm the only one on board that learns those results, okay? So there are no school-based consequences. There's no loss of team or group privilege. Far from it. We've looked at just the opposite. We need positive peer involvement to help the students overcome these temptations and issues. So instead of kicking them off the teams, which prior to my arrival here, I believe was the mentality in the essence, hey, we caught you, we don't need that, get out of school. We realize we are an educational setting and we need to provide just that, an education. If a kid's going down this path, let's help them overcome it. So,
yeah. And to be fair, in the early 2000s is about when that was. And I think that was more the mentality back then in general, not necessarily just your school.
And I didn't mean to indict just this school. Please hear that. So.
Yeah. And
I'm a product of this school. I'm certainly not going to indict that.
Thankfully, we've come a long way in helping to understand substance use disorder and what does and what does not work as far as driving teens to try to stay drug and alcohol free. So, and then maybe could you just touch a little bit on your background with substance use disorder counseling?
Prior to being here, I spent 28 years with the local community mental health organization. At the time, I was the adolescent unit. For some reason, people just didn't appreciate working with that population. And yes, I was younger. I had brown hair back then, Angie.
I don't believe it.
Yeah, I did. But working with adolescents and families, and certainly the issues that were engendered with those populations did involve a lot of substance abuse, experimentation, some other dabblings, okay, court involvement, detention center involvement, those types of things. So I had opportunity to work with various populations in different settings through the community mental health organization. From there, we branched out and we started providing school-based services as well. So I could make the connection between an outpatient mental health setting, okay, and the school where many of these issues are first identified and observed. So it is a very nice transitional piece. And it fit very neatly, okay, with, I think, my role at the time.
Yeah, and that ties in good to what my next question is, because I feel like with substance use in general, especially with this age group, sometimes the signs and symptoms of substance use or even addiction to substances, it mirrors some other adolescent typical behaviors. So as a counselor with the training that you have, but also in the setting that you're in, what would you say to other counselors or even to some parents or anybody who might be interested in the topic? What would you say as far as signs and symptoms and sort of what to look for?
Well, if I could go off record and preload a couple of comments here and before I get into that.
Yeah,
if
you're
I
totally
could
on the record though, just so you know.
Because ideally, any discussion of drugs and alcohol with a teenage child really needs to take place before there's any suspicions of usage. Okay, I can't emphasize that enough. A parent in concert with the other parents or child caregivers, whoever may be in that position, okay, really need to have a conversation between themselves to talk about what are your feelings, what are your thoughts, what are legitimate consequences, what are the guidelines, the boundaries, okay, that we are willing to enforce and that we expect with our children. Okay, I think that's crucial. That you have to have those regardless of your history, because I will tell you, adolescents are very good at throwing back in your face. You did it. You're a hypocrite. What's wrong with me trying? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, they will go down that road very quickly.
Right. So how does a parent handle that? If a kid says,
well,
you did it.
And you may admit, and you said, you know what, I did. And the outcomes weren't as favorable as I had hoped at the time. Let me tell you some of the negative outcomes and consequences of me having tried those substances. Okay, I mean, they can be upfront without revealing all the dirty little secrets, if you will. Okay, but I think it's important that they come back to, I love you, and that's why we're having this discussion. I don't want you to have these same concerns or same negative experiences. A line I use with almost all of the boys here is, I don't have the right to tell you not to drink or drug. I do not have that right. What I can tell you is, okay, that if you go into it with your eyes open, the longer you postpone introducing drugs or alcohol to your life, the greater the likelihood it will not become problematic down the road. Okay, and I can't emphasize that enough. I'm not telling you don't do it, because I know, okay, I'm a father of three, a grandfather of three right now, but I know as soon as I tell them don't, as soon as I turn my back, they will. So I don't have the right to tell you not to do that, but the longer you postpone it, the greater the likelihood it will not become a lifelong problem. And that's crucial. That is crucial.
That's a great point. And I love what you said about, ending with making sure they know that you're bringing this up because you love them, because sometimes this topic, I have an 18-year-old myself, and
blessings.
yeah, Thanks. It's a hard topic in general, even for me doing what I do for a living. So, coming at it from a place of love, because I feel like a lot of times it might just be that they think we're trying to catch them or we're trying to accuse them of something. So, making it a point to say, I want to talk to you about this because I love you and I want to keep you safe. So it feels like it should go without saying, but it's worth saying.
It's worth saying repeatedly. And my caution to parents is don't expect to have a one-time marathon talk with your children about drugs and alcohol are bad. I don't care how long you make it, it's going to be a lecture and your kids are going to turn it off. I mentioned I'm a parent. My kids taught me they finish listening well before I finish talking.
Right, sure.
So having these discussions, okay, I call them topic specific discussions. Have a 5-minute discussion here, a 10-minute discussion there. Our society allows us these topics to be presented. You turn on the news, you see a beer or alcohol commercial. Opportune time just to talk about, okay, hey, what are your thoughts on that? What do they really seem like they're selling here? Okay, what was the most salient feature of that ad? Or you pick up the newspaper and you read, okay, a certain state is looking to legalize marijuana or decriminalize it anyway. Okay, hey, are you and your buddies talking about this? What are the thoughts? What's the word on the street? That type of thing. Okay, so we have opportunities to see that, to introduce the topic without saying, I think you're using that.
Right.
Okay, because
Right.
once we do that, we've lost them. Okay, so that's why I said if I could front load all of this with just those suggestions, okay, and kind of getting at it that way. I think school counselors are instrumental in helping get those messages out as well. Any kind of prevention, anytime there's a group assembly or a small group, okay, and they have access, go into classrooms and say, hey, we got prom coming up, just a reminder, or we got spring break right around the corner, okay, hey, let me tell you, there's some issues that have arisen in the past with this. Unfortunately, there are many times a negative story in the news where perhaps a star athlete or a well-respected student may go away on spring break and a serious accident befalls them. Okay, it's a time to sit and say, hey, who thought? Okay, who really thinks that guy went away and said, I'm going to die in spring break? Nobody. Right. Okay. How many said, you know, that carload of girls that was driving to Florida? Okay. Who thinks they plan to get drunk? Okay. And run off the road? I mean, they don't, obviously, but those situations do arise and they give us access, okay, to the students, to our children, to have these discussions, okay, in a real-time fashion.
Right. Yeah. Even just last night, I had a meeting with a couple other parents. We were planning my daughter's senior trip, which is happening with or without my help. So I might well have a hand in it.
Sorry again.
So we were talking about issues and, you know, I was saying they just don't understand that not even to their mortality, but even to like scholarships and things like that. The way that this can affect you is greatly underrated. So, that's worth mentioning. So let me ask you this, and this is something that we come across with counselors in general, especially ones that are considering mandatory testing or some heavy requirements with their program in their school. Well, hold on, let me back up on that. As far as the talking points, I just wanted to point out to anybody watching that if you have Drug-Free Clubs of America in your school, we send out information to parents 5 times, at least 5 times, if not more, during the year where we prompt that conversation. So it's not just, hey, talk to your child about drugs.
Take 5.
Yes, it's the Take 5 program. So it's testing happened today. Your child was tested. Talk to them tonight about who was there. Have they ever been offered anything? So we give very real world instances where it's easy to have those conversations. So put that topic to the side, but going back to counselors, a lot of times I feel like counselors don't necessarily know if they have identified a student in the school or a teen that they love, even in their personal lives. Parents and counselors alike, and maybe even some teens who are worried about some friends, what would you say is the next thing to do? So you've identified this person might be having a problem, you're concerned, whatever. What do you do about it?
Great question. Okay. And what I suggest, okay, it depends upon who is bringing the issue to me. Let me take it to the school counselor since you first introduced that, okay, individual. School counselors, okay, because they are in the middle of everything, okay, I know that personally, everything at school, okay, they have access to a variety of resources and people. Okay. If it is a non-punitive environment, much like ours is, okay, where you can seek information to get services and help to a student, I encourage them to reach out. If they identify a student, favorite teacher, sports coach, club moderator, if they know that student's involved in some capacity with one of them, merely go to them and say, hey, I just have concerns about, and fill in the blank, okay? You don't need to be very specific with the concerns, just, I have concerns. If you see, and I know I didn't cover the symptoms and signs, I apologize. It's an exhaustive list, but if you have a couple of those, I know Johnny keeps coming in, okay, and he's been tardy the last 3 mornings, okay? Or Mary looks like, okay, she's just not getting enough rest and she's been disheveled in presentation, okay, and nodding off in class, okay? I mean, bring some information to that person and just say, can you help me understand? Or would you help me keep an eye on this person? Because that favorite teacher, that coach, that club moderator is invested in that child, okay? And yes, I will get information. I will follow up, okay? If it is a peer group, okay, and the guidance counselor, the school counselor knows members of that peer group, they can also go to them and say, hey, I know you guys hang around with, okay, Rick, okay, and these are some of the things I've been seeing. Any idea why that may be? So we're tossing it out there. We're not saying, I think he's using drugs, or I think she's using drugs. Okay,
right.
Just, hey, I have concerns. These are things I see. Okay. We may call that a fishing expedition, but it's an invested fishing expedition in that these are people that care about that student. They know that I too, or that school administrators or teachers or parents, okay, care about that student as well. So let's help them, whatever the struggles may be, okay? Then you need to be aware of what you may get back, okay? Many times peers, okay, when you get them off that way, will share information, okay? Well, I don't want them to get in trouble, but, okay, let me tell you what happened at the party this weekend. Okay, so you get that information. Following up with the parent, not to rat out, and just to say, I have reason to believe, okay, your son is, your daughter is facing some struggles in their life. Okay, so that is it. Drugs and alcohol don't enter that discussion at that level. They're having struggles, they're showing some concerns, there's some behaviors, okay, or their appearance, or they're no longer interested in what they once were, okay, their academics have bottomed out. I mean, what can you bring to share that's safe, but at the same time says, let's look under the hood, let's take a closer look, okay? So reaching out to parents that way, and receiving, okay, I can't tell how many parents give me a call and say, I don't have any hard data, I'm just saying, okay?
Right.
And I love that. I love that because, hey, they want an ally. Can you help me take care of my kid? I love them. Let's make this bridge, okay? That love is shared in the school environment as well. That wrap it around my kid, okay? It doesn't take a village, but pert near, okay, for that. So having those discussions, sharing information that way. Okay? I will tell you this, I get a number of boys that come to me at school to talk about a friend, right? And I think part of that is I am non-threatening. I don't have any direct influence over them, playing time, their grades, okay, anything that they may be fearful of, okay. And I think having white hair and being a grandfather figure may carry over into some of that as well. But
yeah.
They do. Oh, thank you. They do come in though, and they say, "Hey, okay, here's a problem. Here's a concern. Okay. Sometimes they bring it up about kids at other schools. Okay. We were at a party and we ran into so-and-so and he or she from a such and such school. That's great. Okay. I'm on the phone with those schools' counselors and say, again, I have nothing solid. I just have some of my students that expressed a concern and I'm asking you, can you follow up on your end? Okay. I don't ask them, do you know this student well? Okay. Is this a frequent flyer? It's just this name came up, please. Okay. Let's circle them with care and see what we can do.
Right.
So trying to get that information out there, okay, to and from. Again, I think counselors are in a very unique situation that teachers, coaches, moderators, administrators do bring a lot to them, okay? A lot of expectations. As I told you, I was late getting on today. Principal said, get in here. I'm not going to tell my boss I can't visit your office. Right. I kept Angie waiting. So. Yep. Well,
he's an understanding guy.
Yeah. I didn't want to test it. Sorry.
No.
So those are unique opportunities, but I hope that makes sense. Okay, both for parents as well as the counselor population. Okay, that you have resources, you have allies, use them. The worst thing that could happen is nothing. If a complaint, if a concern, if an issue, if a suggestion, if a suspicion is brought to somebody and they say, oh, I'll sit on it and wait. Worst possible thing that could happen. Okay. I would rather be nosy and push a little bit and it was nothing. I love that, as opposed to not do something and it was really an issue and it was a concern. Okay.
So let me ask you this, and hopefully this isn't the case, but I'm sure it happens to some people where what if I'm a parent or I'm a teen or whatever, and I go to a counselor and I say I have these concerns and I feel like that counselor didn't do enough or nothing really was done. And so what would you recommend as next steps if you're like, okay, I got it out of the gates, but nobody's really doing anything?
I'm not sure who brought the issue to the counselor.
So let's say it
the
was
individual student, or
let's say it was a student. Yeah. So I would think in most cases, if it's somebody coming to you about a peer, it would be a student saying, I'm concerned about so-and-so.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then they don't necessarily see what the follow-up is from that, because you're not going to go back to them and say, I talked to such and such a student. So if I'm a student and I talk to somebody that I have concerns about, a friend of mine, but I feel like they didn't do anything about it, what would you say? Do I talk directly to that friend, or does that cause them to shut off? Or do I follow up with a different adult? What would you say would be next?
Certainly make use of the other resources. Okay. If they brought something to me and they don't know what I did, or they do walk away, much like you say, either without knowledge or just feeling, hey, my friend is still struggling. Rick didn't help out.
Right.
Okay. I would strongly encourage them to go another adult, a trusted adult, a parent, okay, another guidance counselor here at school, a teacher, somebody to say, hey, I brought this to Rick and it's still a problem. I'm still concerned. Do not let it rest, okay? Again, if you let it rest, that means, okay, nothing, okay, positive.
Being accepted.
Telling the friend, to me, is a last resort, but it's not totally out of the question. If it is risky behavior, if it is serious risky behavior, okay, letting that friend know, I am concerned enough. I have shared this with the school counselor. I have shared this with your parent. I have shared this with, okay, your favorite teacher, okay, is not to frighten that student, okay, but to say to your friend, I do care about you enough that I'm willing to risk this friendship for your health and your safety. To me, that is crucial. Right. To me, that is crucial. Never stop. There's always another adult to tell. If they cannot identify, okay, somebody at the school, use a parent. Go home to your own parent and say, hey, I went to the school counselor today or yesterday to talk about my concerns with my friend. Okay. I don't think he took it seriously, or I don't think he's going to do anything until next week. Okay. It can't wait.
Yeah.
I would advise that parent at that point, okay, to embrace their child for being so brave and caring. Please hear that. But to say, here's what I am willing to do. I will reach out too. Okay. When a parent reaches out, okay, that child may think it's going to take on a little more importance. Hey, if the parent calls the school counselor, if the parent calls the administrator, okay, my daughter, my son came to your counselor, he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a concern, take care of it. Okay,
that's a good point.
Reach out to the other parent. Phones are wonderful things. Networking is great. Okay, my kids wouldn't tell you that at the time they were growing up, but they did realize it. When they tell me I'm going out, I'm going over so-and-so's house, if I didn't know that household, if I didn't know that individual well, I'd be on the phone. I would call that parent. Hi, I'm so-and-so's father. Okay. He or she says they're coming over to visit your child this evening. They plan on watching movies. I just went to say hi. Okay. You know what? That's it. They have a name and a number now. I've reached out. Right. If I get back, I have no idea who that kid is, and nobody's coming to my house tonight, then I have another issue, okay? Or, yeah, you know what? They're coming over here, and I'm taking everybody's keys because I'm getting a keg for them. Another concern. So
little concern.
it gives me a good read for that. But again, reaching out and using those allies, that's critical.
Yeah. Use what you got, right? Use
Yes.
whoever's around you that you trust. And if one person doesn't do anything, shame on them, but that doesn't need to stop you.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, we are live. So if we get any comments in the chat, if anybody asks any questions, or if there's any counselors or parents that have some follow-up questions, can I forward those to you?
Oh, please do. Please do.
Okay.
You put my name out there, here's my face, so I won't run, I promise.
Yeah. And for anybody who doesn't know, Rick has been a member of our board. He's, I guess, technically one of my 8 bosses right now.
You never framed it that way before.
You are technically one of my 8 bosses. So I just want to thank you for everything that you've done to help us inform our program over the years. You've been a wealth of knowledge when it comes to figuring out what works, what doesn't work. Let's try something new, but make sure we do it this way. So thank you so much. And anybody out there, if you do have any questions, you can, of course, put something in the chat here, but also through our website, the Contact Us tab on our website, that's anonymous. So sometimes topics like these are hard to just, put out there into the great big wide world. And but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't go unanswered. So if you want to use the Contact Us form on our website, drugfreeclubs.com, please do that, and we will get you answers. If there's anything that we didn't answer today, just send that along and we'll get back to you.
Please share that. I'll be happy to help.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining us and braving the technology gap there.
You know my issues, don't you?
You did great.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you much.
Yeah,
stay safe.
You too. Thanks to everybody who watched, and we'll see you next week.
Okay. Thanks. Bye-bye.